Acumen means the skill of making good decisions and correct judgments. It usually comes with years of experience and is limited to one's own field. But what if we could improve our acumen in key areas that usually take time, such as business and leadership, by learning from others? That's where this talk show comes in. Listen, learn from, and be inspired by C-suite executives, founders, and other leaders who have been where you are now before. I'm Dror Wayne, your host in Tel Aviv, and this is Acumen. Itai Azogui is the founder and CEO of SavannahTech, an Israeli-American-based company dedicated to building R&D teams for companies by working with engineers from Africa. Whilst working as a product manager in Accra, Ghana, Itai was exposed to the amazing talent of software engineers from the region. So over the next 18 months, he then built SavannahTech as a bootstrapped company, which today has over 70 engineers in 4 different countries. Itai, thank you very, very much for joining me here today. I'm looking forward to hearing about your story, your insights, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be able to learn and be inspired by you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So from this bio, which I'd written and just read out, one thing has already stood out to me, which is that you've bootstrapped and in 18 months grown so big. So before we go into what's the secret of doing it successfully on a bootstrap model, why have you chosen to go bootstrapped, whereas most people, especially in Israel, straight away go look for funding?
Yeah, it makes sense. I would say that Israelis mostly go to, when they have a product, they go to a VC and they look for funding. But once you have an idea and you understand the model and you saw that it was working before, in many cases, you don't want to go to a place where you need to take funding. Also, this specific company was a services company, which means that, let's say, the hockey stick is not necessarily always there, and there are a lot of unknowns that don't exist really in a product company.
So, right, because it's much more stable. You don't have those massive costs to start off with to then be able to R&D.
Exactly.
Although actually it's what you provide for other people.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't hold you back. Okay, so then what were the challenges about that? Were there any moments where you were faced with a challenge and you were thinking maybe I should have gone for funding?
For sure, because every small expense you really have to think, and everything you are trying to get first of all free. Which is, I think, one of the main milestones of entrepreneurship in general. Getting things for free is something...
You think it's a milestone to get past, or you think it's a good skill to do at the beginning?
It's a must skill to have for any entrepreneur, to be able to get things for free and to be able to get people to help you without anything in return.
What's the secret to that? How do you do that?
Well... That's the people skill that every entrepreneur should have most of the time, to try to understand what motivates the other person and what's important for him more than money. And then push there and try to create value in your own way.
Okay, but I'm going to hit you back with an ethical question here.
Yeah.
Everyone has the right to make money and the right to make a living, and that's why we're all in business. We all want to take money home, we need to feed our families, we need to pay the rent and pay the bills. Mm-hmm. I could have called up this studio when I wanted to open the podcast and said to them, listen, I'm trying, I just need a bit of help, don't have the money. But they're running a business. I need the services, quality I want to pay for. Quality I want, I need to pay for it. So do you think there's an ethical problem in trying to get things for free? Where do entrepreneurs find the balance?
Mm-hmm. So that's exactly it. You don't go to a marketing vendor and tell them, give me just half a year off and then I'll see if I can pay you. No, you tell them, listen, let's start those 3 months. I'll pay you full for that, and I need you to do the best work for me. I really, really, really need you right now because this is what's going to help me to push and to really expand this account with you. And I want this relationship to grow. So please help me and do the extra mile for me to be where I need to be, so I can help you, so we can build a relationship. You see how by just saying that, I got him to do the extra mile, do everything he can in his power in order to push my brand, even though I'm just another customer.
Right, but you're investing in a long-term partnership. You're showing him the lifetime value of the deal with you, as opposed to, it could price you out and only give you half, or he could take your money and give you the smaller package, but by giving you that extra bit, it's a higher chance that you'll spend more time with him.
Yeah, that's
Do you do the same for people who are coming to you? If they tell you, I need a tech team and I'm limited in budget, where's your line? How do you... Well, let me ask a better question. Mm-hmm. How do you decide that a client or a prospect is going to be a long-term high value customer. And therefore, in the beginning, you want to give them a bit extra, maybe a bit of a discount or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So first of all, I look at the entrepreneurs. I look at the people of the team in general. Then I look at the market a bit, and I try to understand what is the, if I do get this kind of request, I try to understand what is the likelihood of this company to, really get big and to expand.
Do you ever ask for equity instead of as a substitute for part of the payment?
I really try not to. I've been offered that many times. I really try not to be in a place where I take equity. I do try to give some kind of a grace, or I give discount. In return, I take commitment, something that I know he's going to stay with me for a long time. That's mostly what I would try to do. But I do try to really give, if I believe in the entrepreneurs, I do try to do the extra mile for them as well, of course.
Right, and I noticed that during the war, you were offering 45 days of programmers at no charge to help Israeli businesses. And obviously that was really important because so many businesses, their programmers are in reserves, they can't be there. Sometimes the CTO is in reserves, can't be there, and your teams overseas could really help. And even when the teams can be there, it's how much can they come to the office. You might not be in reserves. Your spouse might be in reserves. You need to be with the kids. The kids are off school, running to the shelter. So I'm sure it was a big help for many businesses. But how did you manage that? It's such a major cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we allocated a specific amount of developers for that specific initiative. And in the end of the day, today, we have the cash flow to help and to in the end of the day, those are 45 days. It's a month and a half. We can bear it. It's not like, we've been around for almost 2 years now, and we have it. And we thought it was really, really important. And surprisingly enough, we didn't think about it. We didn't think that it's actually going to happen. We estimated that 50% are going to stay, but turned out that over 90% stayed with this initiative. Once they exceeded the 45 days, they stayed as a customer, which was really, really interesting and also cool, like kind of a win-win situation.
So it was win-win. Mm-hmm. It wasn't you taking advantage of the situation, because you could have been, putting a bit of a discount, but blitz advertising and taking advantage of the fact that people need developers. Mm-hmm. But instead you gave them something and they respected that, like the service, and you got a benefit out of it, even if it wasn't what you were seeking. If you were expecting 50% and you got 90, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's definitely. And it's a lot more than those 2 weeks that usually companies give. When you go to 45 days, people are like, okay, there's something here. This is not...
Yeah, what can you get done in 2 weeks?
Well, really nothing. It's mostly the beginning of the onboarding, but most companies do give it out sometimes. But 45 days, you can really get stuff done.
Yeah, you could launch so many things.
Exactly. You can definitely... We saw a lot of different features, tens of screens of front-end development, many things like that, integrations, a lot of things were done.
It's interesting because I think the free trial period, extended trial period model is working now better in service businesses, whereas traditionally it's been used a lot in apps and SaaS businesses, and it's created a problem because in many ways we've been educated to expect things for free, like using Zoom. There was one point I had a Zoom premium account for a very short period of time because I was doing lots of long meetings, and it was worth it for me for that time, but I cancelled it after not too long because, I was using the 40 minutes free, and usually what I would do after that was, okay, if a meeting goes on longer than 40 minutes, which it usually didn't, also I liked having meetings on my account even when other people had premium, because I'd say, we've got 40 minutes. Guys, our time is up. Yeah. Done. But on the occasion that it was an efficient meeting, we're still productive at the end of 38 minutes, I'd say to everyone log off, log back into the same link, and we'll keep going. And Zoom have now limited that. You can't log back in more than once or twice. My account got restricted or something like that, which is fair enough because it's a paid business. But what did I do then? I went to Google Meets. And there's this thing there are certain things we've got used to having for free. We've got used to having video calls for free. We've got used to the fact that WhatsApp is free. And then sometimes when the price comes in, if it's small enough, sometimes we absorb it. But sometimes businesses basically shoot themselves in the foot by educating us to that these things, it feels wrong to pay for all of a sudden, especially as it's a jump. Whereas with a service business, although on the one hand, it's harder because your time is limited. So for you as the business owner to be giving these free trials, especially if it's with no commitment, is a lot more problematic. But if it's a bigger company and you can absorb that cost as you guys can, that can be a really successful model because you really, without it costing you too much, I mean, it costs you a bit, but you really give people a chance to really get to know your team, your service, and build something based on that.
And I much rather give that payment to the developer and lose it rather than give it on some marketing campaign that would generate the same result. I think the main thing that got this initiative to succeed is the fact that people were able to test and try, because by this point, it's commoditized already. The service that we're giving, people know this service, they understand it, they know the price for it. But the overall doubt is the developers are not good enough. The developers are not going to be good like ours. And once you give that 45 days, they get to test and they get to see, okay, we can work with something here. Let's build a team around that concept. Let's do something bigger. And that's what gets us the foot in the door.
Yeah, I think we do still have a lot of prejudice about developers overseas. It's just
exactly
due to our there's a word for it, Western imperialism. And if you were to tell me, oh, he's a developer from London, he's a developer from the US, I might think one thing. As soon as you tell me a developer from Ghana, I suppose it's kind of a racism that, unfortunately, there is a thing, is it going to be the same level? Or a developer from Russia or the Ukraine? Now, this isn't 1960. Thankfully, there is a lot more access to education. There are still places that need more.
Of course.
And if I'm not mistaken, Ghana, everyone speaks native English.
Exactly.
So all these ideas of, whoa, it's people from a third world country, actually you're giving the chance for practicality to overcome prejudice. People can realize that their prejudice is wrong and is not beneficial to their business. It overcomes it due to the practicality overcomes that, and that's what creates opportunity. And then that opportunity can spread amongst more and more people, and in turn reduce prejudice. So we have a really positive cycle here by doing this. And if you're showing people the quality and they're seeing how easy it is to actually communicate, because there's no difference in a Zoom call between someone in London from Israel and someone in Ghana.
It's even the same time zone.
What time zone is Ghana?
GMT.
Fantastic. So it's exactly the same. When you compare it, to some other places, it seems very logical almost, but these prejudices still exist in business.
It makes sense. The way I explain this to developers is that they're working with a client. And I tell this to them, we have a metaphor. We call it the baby metaphor. We say, imagine you had a baby. It was 5 months old. And you had to give it away for 6 hours a day to someone on the other side of the world who doesn't speak like you, doesn't look like you, has different habits, different culture. And you can only see him on Zoom. He's not going to come to your house, but he will take care of your baby. And he will tell you, don't worry, I have 6 years experience taking care of babies and I know how to do it. I know how to make, bottles, and I know how to make food, and I can do it very well. Trust me. You can trust me. How would you feel? Would you be panicked about it? Probably. And that's what happens today in the tech industry in general, in the offshore industry. You have the most important thing given away to some person on the other side of the world, and you have no idea what he's doing. What does he have? A wife? He has kids? Where does he live? All of those things are not known to
the most
you.
basic thing. Someone across the world working for you could steal your software, clone it, steal your idea, whatever it is, put bugs in yours so that it starts crashing, and open their own business or sell it off to a competitor.
Many things like that.
How do you reassure clients of these sorts of things?
Well, we check very well the developers, and we have our own mechanism of understanding, and we have our own mechanism of also reinforcing. So we know how to find a developer. We know how to talk to developers. We know how to check specific things about these guys.
But how do you get that over to the customer?
Well, that's in many cases the $1 million question. How do you get the customer to trust you? And that's never easy. But we found out that people who came and wanted to enter some kind of a process, we were able to connect them to other clients that we have. We were able to give them some stats on the region of the people they're going to work with. And, working with a company that cares about its reputation and checks very well who are the people they're bringing on board, this is the kind of partner that you want to have when you have offshore development. You know what I mean?
Right, I see. That makes sense. So it's the company's taking the responsibility. The company's in your country, and you can sue the company.
Exactly.
Because again, even if it's in your own country, suing the individual who might disappear off the face of the earth is one thing. But an established company that isn't going anywhere,
of course,
you can get your hands on them, and you can get your compensation if needed.
Exactly.
I have a lot more questions to ask you, but we are limited on time. So I want to go straight next into one of my regular questions, which is, what in your eyes, working with so many different companies, what makes good business?
Yeah. So I think a good business, there are certain things that I like in my business, and I think that in any business, there should be a thought about that. First of all, it's the recurring model, the fact that you are getting paid every month for a service or for some kind of a relationship is something very, very important. And this is what's going to help you grow in a way. The one-off is very hard because you constantly need to sell aggressively you have to be a hunter in a way, where if you have a specific relationship with someone, it can go on for a long time. So this is something very important that I think any business owner should think about.
I actually, I have that personally in the unfortunately, my business in the UK doing event magnets. We've got a great team, great service, but most people come to us for their wedding, and most people, if they're lucky, have one wedding.
Yeah.
Maybe 13 years later, give or take, 12, 13 years later, their kids will have a bar bat mitzvah. Sometimes they have siblings or cousins. And yes, we do get friends who have seen us. So the product has to be quality so that people recommend it. But that's still one-off purchases.
Exactly.
Occasionally, I also get companies who come back every year for their annual event, but it's less. So it's really, really difficult because we're always... And if I have a down month when I don't have any of the companies who are coming back for their annual event, and there are slightly less weddings, and just the people who do have weddings maybe don't book, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I have a month where there's no income and I still have expenditures.
Yes.
Because my expenditures are recurring. I'm paying those recurring businesses rent for space, website and servers and all these things, and insurance and all these overheads add up monthly. And if you have a monthly income, which okay, that's covering that, or that's covering this portion of that, or that's covering this portion of that, plus some wiggle room, you're in a much safer place. And then the sales, well, that's a bonus. And then you get into start actually calculating the lifetime value of your customers, your cost of acquisition versus your lifetime value, and using things like MMR and AR and annual returning revenue. And it's interesting to think about how non-SaaS businesses can create that model, can move from pay-as-you-go to contracts, can move from selling an individual. If you've got someone coming into your coffee shop, that can be a one-off. How do you turn them into a regular customer?
Yeah.
How do you build that recurring revenue? In fact, I don't know if you've ever heard. Do you know Pret?
Yes, the French bakery.
Coffee bakery around the world.
They're great. I love them.
And they introduced, I think it's in the US and the UK, I don't know where else, a subscription. So you can subscribe for $30 a month or $40 a month. I think there were 2 tiers, 2 unlimited coffee per month. And it works out super cheap if you were to take advantage of it. There are limitations. You can't buy more than 1 coffee in half an hour or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You'll add up to 5 a day. So you can't go in and buy your entire team coffee on, I've paid for my subscription. No, it's for you personally.
Yeah.
But it's recurring revenue for them, covers overheads, and it then brings people in to buy other stuff. You come in, you've got the coffee, okay, you buy a sandwich, you buy a piece of fruit, etc. And that's where they're making those extra margins on top of that recurring revenue. We're nearly out of time, so I want to, for one more question, ask you if you can recommend for someone who's been listening and who is inspired by you and wants to become more like you in your business and wants to learn from the same places you've learned, can you recommend a book or some other learning resource which someone can go out and learn from?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Blue Ocean Strategy is definitely a must.
Blue Ocean Strategy.
The Blue Ocean Strategy. It gives you an understanding of how to look at markets and how to create your own market in the specific market that you are in to get the competition to be somewhat irrelevant. And it really helps you to, change your value proposition slightly just to make sure that you are fulfilling a specific need of the client that no one else was there to fulfill.
Okay, so the Blue Ocean Strategy. Do you know who it's by?
Oh.
No worries. I'll find it afterwards.
Need to find it.
I'll pop the details down in the description for anyone who's looking to it. I'll try and get a link to order it as well.
Amazing.
To find out more about market analysis and suiting your business to the market, I want to also just give you 60 seconds to pitch. Here's the camera. Anyone who's out there listening and thinking, hang on, this could be an interesting solution. What's your 60-second pitch and where can they find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, thanks. So in general, you could find us at SavannahTech.io. We are very strong in LinkedIn and Facebook and all kinds of Twitter. We have our own community as well. You can get that from the website. In general, if your company is needing those, what we call satellite logic, so integrations, front-end development, product maintenance, all of the things that the in-house developers sometimes it's hard for them to do, or they get a lot of work from that specific area. We come in and we do that for dozens of companies. So we do integrations in dozens of companies. We did front end for many companies, and we developed some kind of a specialty in those specific domains. And that's what's really put us in a very, I'd say, specialized area of our own. So this is what we are able to do. And feel free to also reach out to me on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, you spelled Itai Azogui. Is that right?
Itai.
Oh my goodness, I got it wrong. Itai Azogui. That's Itai Azogui. Thank you very much for coming in today. Itai Azogui from SavannahTech.
Thank you.
It's been a great discussion, and I hope that at some point we'll be able to have you back. I want to talk to you about what it's like being a leader, kind of on your own in the country with staff overseas. I want to talk to you more about your journey, the mentoring you give. I know you mentor at Reichman University.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's going to be a lot more to talk about when we have you at some point back in for another episode. You've been listening to Acumen, the talk show that discusses leadership, business, and marketing. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever else you would like to absorb your content. Don't forget to follow and connect with me on LinkedIn, Dror Wayne. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll speak soon.